Most of Emma Gomez's friends and acquaintances didn't know that she grew up in an orphanage. People knew her as an attractive woman in her 40s who was raising her teenage son all alone. However, no one even thought about how many hardships the unfortunate woman had to face in her lifetime. Life in an orphanage could hardly be called easy, since children that grow up without parental love are often very cruel towards each other. Despite the help of the caretakers, Emma repeatedly wanted to run away from the orphanage and never come back. Nevertheless, the girl was well aware that living alone on the street could turn out to be even worse than her life at the orphanage. Time flew by, and every minute of it brought the orphans closer to the day of their graduation and the start of their independent life in the adult world. Finally, Emma came of age and left the hated orphanage forever. The young woman spent about a week searching for a job and gladly accepted the position of a waitress in a roadside cafe. Working 12 or even 16 hours a day, Emma was happy with the life she had. Sure, the waitress salary wasn't much, but the tips left by the grateful customers made up for it. About 6 months after getting the job, Emma met a nice young man. They met quite by accident, and at first glance, their meeting could hardly be considered fateful. Oddly enough, they met over tea, which Emma spilled on the customer's shirt while working at the cafe. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. It won't happen again." The young waitress blushed with embarrassment. Fortunately, the customer turned out to be a nice man who didn't cause a scene over the accident. Instead, he left Emma a generous tip and asked her out on a date to watch a movie together in a theater nearby. "Well, I'm not sure to be honest, but I'll probably come," Emma answered, flattered by the attention of the nice young man. "Well, I'll be waiting for you at the entrance. Just keep in mind that it's the last show, so it's better to be there on time," the stranger said with a smile. Only when the customer left did Emma realize that having succumbed to the man's charms, she didn't even ask for his name. What if he doesn't come? What if it was all a joke? Who would want anything to do with an orphan? The waitress thought anxiously. The rest of the shift dragged on painfully slow. When Emma finally got off work, it was already getting dark outside. However, before the woman had time to take a couple of steps, she saw the same man in front of her, the one she had poured tea over not so long ago. The stranger was holding a bouquet of dazzling white roses, which he immediately gave to Emma. The poor orphan woman got so emotional that she immediately blushed to the very roots of her hair, but thankfully the twilight hid her reaction from her companion. As it turned out a little later, the man's name was James Rodriguez, and he grew up in a wealthy family. Unlike Emma, the man was a senior at a university and dreamed of a career as a successful economist. The young people greatly enjoyed the time they spent together. Having said goodbye under the moonlight, they agreed to meet again. Since then, James and Emma started seeing each other almost every day. Over time, their dates grew into a beautiful romance, which gave them both hope that they found their true love in each other. The news of Emma's pregnancy had a sobering effect of an icy shower on the young couple. It was then that it turned out that James' plans didn't include becoming a father anytime soon. "Emma, you know how I feel about you, but still, I plan on building a career first. And becoming a father at 25 definitely wouldn't help. So I thought about it, and if you decide to get an abortion, I'll cover all the expenses," James said in a pragmatic tone, devoid of any emotions. Having heard her boyfriend out, Emma couldn't hold back her tears, which started flowing down her face a second later. But James only shrugged his shoulders in response and left. Deep down, he didn't care what Emma would do. That was mainly due to the fact that he didn't want to fight with his parents, who'd already found a rich woman from a good family for him to marry. Only now did Emma realize what an unfortunate mistake she made by letting James into her life. Having decided to keep the baby and raise it on her own, the woman broke up with her boyfriend and went back to living alone, just as she did before she met him. Unfortunately, Emma's pregnancy wasn't an easy one. She had terrible headaches and morning sicknesses all the time until labor. However, when all of her suffering ended in the birth of a beautiful baby boy, Emma's joy knew no bounds. She named her firstborn David after one of her favorite movie stars. Sadly, the boy's biological father never once came to see him at the hospital. "It's okay, dear. It'll just be the two of us. It's fine. We don't need anyone else," Emma kept repeating, as if trying to convince herself too. The single mother had to go through a lot before her son became a teenager and started high school. Meanwhile, Emma worked several jobs to try to provide for her son with everything he needed. The single mother went from working in a cafe during the day to cleaning offices in the evening and washing cars on the weekends. Unfortunately, despite Emma's best efforts, David grew up selfish. The boy didn't appreciate how hard his mother worked to provide a decent life for him. The teenager didn't even think about how hard it was for his mother to earn the little money they had, and so he spent it all on his own needs. David always wanted to have a brand new smartphone or basketball uniform to show off in front of his classmates. Of course, Emma tried to reason with their son and set him on the right path, but all of her efforts were in vain. The fact was that David took everything for granted and considered his mother to be more of a servant than someone to love and respect. The older he got, the more expensive things he wanted. Emma could no longer find the money to indulge his every whim, such as buying a new gadget or yet another pair of sneakers. The situation escalated noticeably during David's senior year, when he told his mother that he was ashamed to be seen next to her at his graduation ceremony. "How so, son? Am I not worthy to be present at your graduation?" Emma whispered with tears in her eyes. But David hadn't cared about his mother's tears for a long time and knew perfectly well that she wouldn't be able to say no to him. Unfortunately, the young man didn't know that his caring mother had borrowed a lot of money from her colleagues to buy him an expensive suit and a pair of brand new shoes. And she didn't forget about herself either, having bought a beautiful evening dress in which she looked like a real prom queen. And now, because of her son's selfishness, she risked missing such an important event in his life. Of course, David liked the suit his mother bought him very much. Unfortunately, he never said it out loud and reacted to the purchase with his usual indifference. Deluded in his judgment, David didn't know that his mother wasn't going to give up so easily. While David was figuring out which of his classmates to ask to the graduation, Emma was looking forward to the ceremony. A few months flew by, and finally, the senior class was ready to leave their high school forever. Dressed in the expensive suit, David looked at his reflection in the mirror with satisfaction and said goodbye to his mother. "I hope we have an understanding and you won't come to the graduation. I'm ashamed to be seen with you. You look like a beggar. I really don't want you to embarrass me in front of the entire school with your miserable outfit." Emma only pursed her lips in response and left her son's comments unanswered. Going to the graduation, the young man was sure that his mother wouldn't dare to go against his wishes and would stay home. But Emma had her own plans for the evening, and this time, she wasn't about to indulge her son's whims. Therefore, the woman went to the stylist and had her hair done. Then she put on the dress she bought a month ago, especially for this occasion. At that time, the unsuspecting David was already having fun with his friends, who all came to the graduation with their parents. But when Emma Gomez appeared in the midst of the celebration, everyone gasped. Talking animatedly, all the parents tried to guess whose mother she was. Imagine David's surprise when he saw an elegantly dressed woman in front of him, and not an office cleaner in an old uniform. "Mom, what are you doing here? Why did you come? Do you want to embarrass me?" David said, louder than he should have, thus immediately attracting even more attention to them. "I raised you alone, son. You can't even imagine what I had to go through. Therefore, it seems to me that I have earned the right to come to your graduation," Emma exclaimed with anguish. David tried to argue, but feeling the condemning looks of everyone around him, he quickly stopped and felt very uncomfortable. Moreover, the parents of his classmates immediately approached David and told him that he was wrong, and in a rather sharp manner too. "You can't treat your mother this way. It looks like you need to rethink your attitude, and if someone did embarrass you today, it wasn't your mother, it was you," one of the guests said, loud enough for everyone else to hear. After this man's words, the other parents started nodding in agreement, and David once again felt very uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Emma was enjoying the cozy atmosphere. She even danced with a lonely widower who also came to his son's graduation alone. At that moment, for the first time in several years, the woman felt happy. The beautiful dress, the nice music, and a courteous gentleman nearby instantly turned Emma's head. She had never experienced anything like this before. Meanwhile, after being reproached by his classmates' parents, David stood aside, deep in his own thoughts. For the first time in his life, the young man clearly realized how wrong he was, treating his mother with disdain and feigned indifference. Having a hard time holding back his tears, David approached his mother and hugged her tightly. To the thunderous applause of all those present, the young man asked for forgiveness from the woman who was ready to give her everything for his happiness. After that memorable evening, David's attitude changed completely. Now, the young man no longer bothered his mother with his never-ending demands. Instead, he became a reliable source of support for Emma, who had been dreaming of a strong family for many, many years.